Welcome to the Chronic Warriors podcast with Cassandra A. Campbell.
A platform to share,
Hear,
and cheer chronic illness warriors.
Just know that when you made your commitment to your partner, you took their whole selves.
To be able to have a bad day, to be able to say, do you know what, I can't cope no more.
I am a chronic warrior because every day I wake up and I'm so glad to still be here.
Welcome to the Chronic Warriors podcast. Now, before I introduce my guest, I just want to give you the heads up that I'm in a lot of pain today. I'm having a bit of a back flare up, so if I sound a bit off sometimes, you know why. Okay, without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest today, Daniel, who's been kind enough to join me to share his experience of being in a relationship with his partner who has a chronic illness. Welcome, Daniel, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. Cheers.
Really appreciate you being here. Just to start off with, can you let us know what chronic illness or illnesses your partner has, please?
Yeah, so my girlfriend, she has hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and kind of all the things that kind of comes with, really.
Yeah, which is a lot for most people.
Yeah.
And did she have the symptoms when you first met?
I think probably some of them, but she didn't get a diagnosis, formal diagnosis and like a label, I suppose you could say, until about 2 years into our relationship.
Right, okay. And how did you find that?
I mean, we were both pretty young at that time. I think we were both about 17, so we were both kind of discovering it at the same time. It was okay, I suppose a lot more for her than it was for me to go through, but we kind of took it in our stride because we were both discovering, we're both still growing up and discovering things, so it was just another thing to deal with.
Yeah, it can be really challenging, especially when you first get the diagnosis and you kind of don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, a label or, a word or a term can be really useful, but then you're also like, okay, now what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I found that once you've got the diagnosis, there's often not much help after that.
Yeah.
Have you and her found the same experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got family members with chronic fatigue, so a lot of them kind of overlap as well.
Yeah.
Which that was quite helpful because my sibling had been through a similar thing maybe 5-6 years previous, but obviously no two journeys are the same, and it's different for everyone, isn't it, really? So there was a lot of waiting and wondering what would be available for us and what would we do next. But
then I guess, you, in some ways, even if it's different with a sibling and family members, you kind of had a little bit of a heads up in regards to what possibly to expect, or just being around somebody who has a chronic illness.
Yeah, completely. A lot of, traits and not techniques, but, like little home remedies and things you can use and stuff like that. But I think my mum was really useful because she'd been through it all, writing angry emails and phone calls to doctors and different GPs and specialists and stuff like that. So that was really useful. She was really good, actually.
Okay, so she helped to get your voices heard.
Yeah, definitely. She's good with an email or a pen or whatever. But knowing what to say and how to talk to people and who you can speak to, really, as well.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. It's really great that you had that support because a lot of people don't. So that's really good.
Definitely.
So how would you find it's impacted your relationship? I mean, I think you said the first couple of years, there weren't really much symptoms. And then things started to progress. So what kind of impact has it had? What kind of changes has it had for you both?
I think because we're both still growing up at the time. We started going out when we were 15, and then she probably started getting symptoms like 16, 17, and then a proper diagnosis around 17, 18. I think she definitely took it in her stride, credit to her. We were both just kind of still getting to know each other and getting to know, like, kind of becoming adults as well. So it's quite a lot on top of her. I think we've definitely got a lot better at communicating what we do and what we don't want to do over the last couple of years, because you get a lot of influences when you're a teenager and stuff. You get a lot of pressure, a lot of big life decisions to make. And I think if we had to make those now, we wouldn't do anything differently. It'd be a lot easier to deal with those challenges now.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely know how to, pace yourself, communicate your feelings now, or my feelings as well. And manage your health and your energy levels are just a lot better generally.
That's really great. I mean, and I hear what you're saying, not to be patronizing or anything, but when you, like you said, when you're young, you're going through a lot of change yourself, you're getting to know yourself, let alone somebody else, and you're navigating yourself through life. So then to be hit with the illness as well as part of your relationship must have been a lot to deal with. So I really commend you for that, and that whole thing about communication. I think that's really great, because a lot of people who don't have a chronic illness to deal with struggle to communicate just generally in a relationship, let alone when you've got the added pressure of having a chronic condition. So I'd really commend you both for that. That's lovely. And it's nice that you've been together since you were so young as well.
Yeah, I know.
That's really nice, and you're just growing together. I think that's lovely. So you said that you kind of, the way that you deal with it is by communication. Is there anything else that helps you to get through stuff?
I think honesty as well, because sometimes I think more so for her than me. Let's say I've got something planned, or we've both got something planned, you know, like a holiday or a trip somewhere, or even just things we both want to do. We need that open communication channel to say, look, I can't do that today. I've had a flare up, or, you know, I've had a bad sleep, or something's really on top of me. She might not say that because she might be feeling bad or guilty. I think guilt's quite a thing that creeps in quite a lot with partners and in between each other. But just being honest, because if she can't tell me how she's feeling honestly, then I don't know how to help her. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's definitely got clearer, and we've been more honest with each other as our relationship's grown, and we've grown together as well, I'd say.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I definitely agree with the guilt thing. I've felt that a lot in my life for different reasons, you know, whether it be a parent or as a partner or just as a friend or whatever, the guilt. I think a lot of us have to deal with that. So would you say that during this process in your relationship, have you learned anything new about yourself?
Well, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything like that, but I think definitely patience. Patience is a massive thing. Communication, I think it's like a building block for anything really. Patient, and I think just getting on with things really, like more so her. I'll probably learn more about her than about myself, because she's just so resilient, and she's a bit of a perfectionist really. So sometimes, you know, she'll be doing something for work, and I'm thinking like, if I've had a long day at work, the last thing I want to be doing is just, you know, find a little finishing touches or thinking about it. Never mind if I've got a chronic illness weighing me down as well. Massive respect for my partner really, because she just cracks on with it.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself, so I get that. I've had to let go of that a little bit over the years.
Yeah,
because it just added pressure.
There's only so much you can do on, you know, 3 or 4 hours of poor sleep.
I love the way you sound like you just get it. You really just get it. It's just great. Is there anything that your partner does that you find a bit weird or funny or quirky that's connected to her condition?
Putting ridiculous amounts of pillows in the bed to ensure that, you know, your body's in the right position and you get good sleep. She definitely does things like that, but it seems to be more stuffed animals more than pillows. So I'll get into bed and I'll move the cupboards, and there'll be about 24 like plushed animals in my way. I'm thinking, you know, I'm glad you're comfy and you've got your space, but, you know, I'm 6 foot and there's no room for me in this bed. I don't know where I'm going. I think she doesn't realise sometimes the way like her body works, because she's got hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos. Like, she'll be standing there and I'll look at her and I'm thinking, how are you comfortable? And she'll have like a knee bent and like a hip popping out, and or she'll be like leaning up against the wall and her arm will be like 180 degrees. I'm like, are you okay? She's like, oh yeah, I'm just comfy, I'm fine. And I'm like, I don't know how and sometimes she didn't realise, and I'm just like, my God, like, whoa.
It's really funny to hear that from a different perspective, because I have the same thing of just sometimes I'll be in a funny position and not realise until I'm actually in pain.
Yeah, you don't realise you've been sitting on like your leg, going backwards for like an hour or something.
Yeah, it's really funny hearing it from your perspective. Oh dear. So, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your experience?
I think professionally, because I'm a qualified nurse by background, but I wouldn't say it's helped me in my job, as it almost given me like another perspective, because I've been, if people have been waiting in waiting rooms or waiting on the phone for ages, they can get really impatient. And as a nurse or as a healthcare professional, you're thinking, all right, like, come on, calm down, I'm trying to do my job and stuff. But, it's been sitting in A&E or waiting in a waiting room for like an hour and a half, and your partner's feeling really unwell. It's like a hot day. It's not the right conditions. You both had a bad sleep or something. I can kind of see why people are raging sometimes. I can see why people are really upset or frustrated, or, you're the 5th or 6th person they've told you their story to, and then you're there sitting there and your girlfriend's explaining why all of her problems, she's listing off all her issues and symptoms, I can see it both ways. You know, it's allowed me to see it not as a patient, but as a patient carer and as a professional. It definitely given me a new point of view, really.
It's interesting that that's your background as well. Really interesting.
I don't know whether I'm, you know, like my temperament is quite a caring person anyway, or maybe being with my girlfriend has made me more caring, and that's how I've ended up in nursing. It's probably a mix of both of them, really.
Right, okay. I guess we expect somebody who's in a healthcare profession to naturally be caring, to want to do that job in the first place. But then the added thing of having a partner who has a chronic illness, that's really interesting. That is.
I think if I think back to my training, I think, you know, more than half the people training to be nurses have either been patients of some form of service themselves or had loved ones. It's definitely a thing that leads people into that job.
Yeah, that would make sense. So, as I said, I'm really grateful that you agreed to have this interview with me today and that you filled out the survey that I'd sent out. And for me, I really just wanted to provide a platform for partners of people with chronic illnesses to have a voice. And obviously, you responded to the call. So why do you think, for you, why is it important for partners to have a voice?
I think the more people do speak up, the better. You know, the louder our voice is, the more we'll get heard and more things will happen, changes will happen, you know, like a higher level. And I think for a lot of people, you know, some people might be bedridden or housebound, depending on, you know, their condition and how it is affecting them. And I think if they can't speak up for themselves, we need to do it. Even if your partner can speak, and then all we're doing is there's two voices instead of one. But I think it's just more people speak up, then the higher chance and the quicker something will change for the better. And I think it's not until you start speaking, having these conversations or reach out to this type of, you know, this media and information and this platform, that you realise how many other people are going through similar things and how many other people are going through things you've been through or might be about to go through. And that kind of, it's that support, isn't it? And even that, just that comfort of knowing someone else is going through what you or your partner's going through. I think it's just, the more people, the better, really.
Yeah. And would you say that there's enough or any support out there for partners? Is there anything that you've tapped into?
There's definitely not enough. I mean, there is things out there. There's like different carers networks and even people at work I've spoke to who are going through similar things or have come across things in their own professional or personal stories, you know. But there's not enough, definitely. And I think even when I was filling out, because obviously I've been working throughout the whole time of this COVID pandemic, there was questions, we had to do like a risk assessment at work and it was asking you about yourself. There was no point throughout that whole system where they asked you, are you a carer or who are you living with? Are they vulnerable? It was only about yourself. And I said to my manager, or I said to someone, like, you know, well, what about all these people who are caring for people who are vulnerable, might be affected or high risk? And it didn't, you know, it didn't come across anyone's mind really. And I was just shocked.
It's definitely something that they need to be addressing.
Yeah, because I'm not high risk myself. You know, I'm quite fit and healthy, thankfully. But you know, if anything happened to my partner, they are definitely at higher risk. And if anything happens, it might not be like a respiratory point of view, but it's an after effect. All these fatigue and everything that everyone's experiencing now, and like long COVID, like we've all been through that already. So how are we going to come back from that, and how are we going to deal with that? I was just shocked that no one was asking those questions, really.
Yeah, definitely a lot more needs to be done in regards to just focus and awareness about what people with chronic illnesses go through. So for someone who's in a relationship or considering a relationship with someone who's got a chronic illness like your partner, is there any kind of advice you would give them?
I think I've said it a couple of times, but like, you got to communicate. Even if you're having feelings of like anger or like resentment, or you're just really annoyed about something to your partner, whichever way it is, or you know, maybe they didn't realise and they said something, or maybe it was a friend who said something, you know, even if it's going to be a difficult conversation to have, I think just have that conversation, because we've got to be honest with each other. People who are unwell or, you know, really struggling with something, there's no point putting yourself through something to make your partner happy, especially if it's going to make yourself worse. As a partner, I'd much rather cancel a trip or a holiday, or just pick up the phone and say, look, we can't make it tonight, or we can't do this, and let's just stay in bed and rest, and we'll do something another day. Do you know what I mean? Because as much as I appreciate like my girlfriend saying, "Nah, look, we'll go for a couple hours," you know, it's going to make it worse in the long run. I'll just say, "Nah, let's leave it." And I appreciate it because she's putting me before herself. But at least we have that conversation, you know. And patience, definitely patience, key in life really. Anyway, but it's, you know, it's a long journey a lot of the time, and you got to be patient, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, you sound like a really supportive partner, and you sound like you have a lovely relationship. I haven't met or spoken to your partner, but I think she's lucky to have you, and you're also lucky to have her. I'm not going to be biased here.
No, I'm definitely the lucky one. She's great. I'm definitely the lucky one.
Oh, that's really nice. Oh, it's been so lovely speaking to you today, Daniel. And just hearing your perspective, you just made me think about a few things, actually. So it's been a really great conversation. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's always nice to speak to someone about this type of thing. So thank you.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Oh, and just to mention, plug. I don't know if you're aware that I've written a book about living with EDS and other chronic conditions.
Okay.
Which, you know, you and your partner might be interested in reading, and I can give you the information and you can have a look. And it's just a perspective of myself and my co-author, Marcia Brock, of our experience from childhood up until now and the different aspects of our lives and how it's affected us, really. So that may be something that you guys might be interested in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, lovely stuff. Well, take care, and I hope we speak again soon.
Thank you. Yeah, take care. Look after yourself.
You too. Bye.
You've been listening to the Chronic Warriors podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share this podcast.